Gary Bardwell woke up in a cold sweat, haunted by a vivid nightmare. His beloved daughter Jessie was killed. It was just a dream or so, he told himself, but the sinking feeling lingered days later. Jessie's sudden disappearance turned his worst fear into a heartbreaking reality. This is the emotional journey of a father's desperate fight for justice, and the vibrant, beautiful soul he lost too. Soon Jessie's story is one of hope and tragedy. A young woman seeking love only, to find herself in the presence of pure evil. Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories, where I tell true crime stories with the utmost care and respect for the victims and bearable for my community. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It truly helps me continue bringing these important stories to you. These cases deserve to be remembered. Now settle in, and let's begin. The haunting nightmare came to Gary Bardwell. Like an omen, something was deeply wrong. He dreamt that his daughter Jessie had been killed. When he awoke, he was relieved to realize it was just a dream. But the sinking feeling persisted. Soon his worst fears would come to life. Jessie Bardwell, born in February 6, 1989, grew up surrounded by love and laughter in Orange Beach, Alabama, where she adored the water and the outdoors. Whether riding waves or basking in the sun, Jessie was truly in her element. She had a close-knit family that cherished her vibrant spirit. Her father, Gary Bardwell, a now retired firefighter, shared a deep bond with Jessie, calling her his beautiful little girl. Jessie's relationship with her older brother Brandon was just as special. They were often described as two peas in a pod. After her parents divorced when she was 14, Jessie lived with Gary and her stepmother Gina, creating memories that cemented their strong, familial ties. Jessie attended college for a time, but decided to chart a new path eventually, working at Cobalt, a lively beachfront restaurant in Orange Beach. Her close relationship with her dad continued, as she even booked him to perform gigs at the restaurant. While living with her long-term boyfriend, Jessie surprised everyone by falling for someone new. Jason Lowe. The romance seemed to come out of nowhere. Jason was attractive, outgoing, and educated, boasting 2 college degrees. He appeared to offer Jessie not just love but the promise of an exciting future. When Jason moved to Dallas for a high-paying job in the tech industry, Jessie decided to join him with dreams of pursuing a career in cosmetology. She saw it as an adventure, a fresh start. But when she visited her family that Christmas, she did mention her plan to move to Texas. Looking back, Gary realized this might have been a warning sign. Shortly after the holidays, Jessie left Alabama and headed to Dallas. The girl who used to call her dad and text her friends daily suddenly became unreachable. Her phone number was disconnected, and all communication had to go through Jason. Over time, it became clear that Jason was controlling all of Jessie's calls. When Gary would ask to speak to his daughter, Jason would deflect, saying she'll call you later. But those calls rarely came. 2 months later, Gary finally met Jason when the couple visited him in Pascagoula. During the visit, Gary noticed Jessie hugging him more than usual. His gut told him something was wrong. I remember Jessie was hugging me more than normal, and I was going, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I definitely want to go to Texas. I just want you to be proud of me." As Gary watched their car drive away, a heavy feeling sank in. Something wasn't right. Months later, Gary's fears intensified when Jessie stopped answering calls altogether. When he confronted Jason, Jason brushed him off, claiming he didn't know where Jessie was and that she was free to come and go as she pleased. But when Jessie failed to call her mother or stepmother on Mother's Day, a day she never missed, Gary had had enough. Determined to find answers, he packed his bags and set out for Texas. Anger and fear propelling him forward, he gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity as he sped toward Texas, his mind racing with fear and dread. His instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. Jessie, his beautiful little girl who had always been so close, was out of reach. Every unanswered Calvary excuse from Jason Lowe played on a loop in Gary's head, fueling his growing panic. Jason was hiding something dark. He typed out a chilling message to Jason, his hands trembling. "If Jessie is not there when I arrive, you are in a tremendous amount of trouble. But when Gary reached their apartment, Jessie was nowhere to be found, wasting no time. Gary filed a missing persons report with the Richardson Police Department. Over the next 24 hours, officers visited the apartment multiple times, but Jessie never appeared. That's when Detective Con Hale was assigned to the case. Jason claimed the last time he saw Jessie Wason Mother's Day, May 8, 2016, when she supposedly left in her Acura. But something didn't add up. Detective Hale's investigation quickly uncovered a glaring lie. Jessie's Acura had been sold. 3 weeks earlier, the car was found parked in its new owner's driveway, exposing Jason's fabricated story. Suspicion deepened when detectives visited the apartment again and noticed a line of substance on the countertop. But it was the vile odor emanating from Jason's black Audi in the garage that sent alarm bells ringing. The smell was unmistakable, the stench of death. When Detective Hale opened the hatch, there was no sign of Jessie, but the evidence was damning. The back of the car reeked of decay, with fluids pooling in the cargo area. The vehicle also showed signs of damage, with its bumper removed and mud caked inside and out. Jason claimed he had gotten stuck in the mud while searching for Jessie, but his story unraveled further when detectives sprayed Blue Star, a chemical that detects blood. The cargo area lit up, confirming the presence of blood. At this point, the case shifted from a missing person investigation to a homicide. Jason was arrested on drug charges, giving detectives the opportunity to question him further. Despite their efforts to appeal to his emotions, Jason remained cold and uncooperative, denying any involvement in Jessie's disappearance. "I don't know where she is," he insisted, growing irritated with their questions. Even without Jessie's body, the evidence was overwhelming. Jason Lowe was charged with murder. Yet one question haunted detectives and her family: where was she? With Texas's vast terrain posing endless possibilities, hope dimmed but never faded. Back in Pascagoula, her hometown, united in support, holding a candlelight vigil and praying for her return. Determination to find Jessie remained steadfast after weeks of searching. The Barwolf family finally received an answer about Jessie's whereabouts. Police had reason to believe she was on Aramote Ranch in North Texas, though they wouldn't reveal how they knew. They assured the family their source was reliable. Chief Jimmy Spivey delivered the devastating news: "It's going to be a bad day for y'all today. We do not expect to find your daughter alive." A team of detectives, FBI investigators, and prosecutors made their way to the ranch in Farmville, Texas. As they walked through the fields, they spotted remnants of Jason Lowe's car stuck in the mud, parts scattered across the ground nearby. They discovered a makeshift burial site, shielded by a pile of metal and debris. The unmistakable smell of decay filled the air. Beneath a blue fitted sheet lay Jessie Bardwell's body, crudely wrapped and covered with a red blanket and towels. The condition of her remains was described as one of the worst the investigators had ever seen. It took 7 days to officially identify Jessie's body. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide, but her body was so badly decomposed that the exact cause of death remained unknown. Against his better judgment, Gary Bardwell read the autopsy report, feeling it was his duty as Jessie's father. The details were harrowing. His daughter had been brutally murdered and discarded like trash. Gary and his firefighter colleagues solemnly loaded Jessie's body into the hearse, armament etched into his soul. The community rallied around the Bardwell family, mourning Jessie's loss with a candlelight vigil at First United Methodist Church. Over 900 people gathered to honor her life, shedding tears. Her mother, Kitty Bardwell, remarked that the town could be washed with all the tears that were shed over Jessie Bardwell. The family grieved. Jason Lowe sat in McKenna jail cell preparing his defense. His court-appointed attorney, Andy Farkas, insisted Jason was innocent, but admitted convincing a jury would be a challenge. Meanwhile, Gary struggled with his grief and rage. He found solace in a stump outside his house, where he printed pictures of Jason's face and smashed them with a sledgehammer until exhaustion took over. The only thing keeping him going was the hope of seeing Jason Lowe face justice in court, a chance to hold him accountable for the unimaginable loss of his daughter. Jessie had believed she was in love with Jason, but the relationship soured quickly. After moving to Texas, they had a heated argument within a month. Jason later claimed the fight erupted because Jessie had a brief affair before relocating and became pregnant. Devastated, Jessie told her father She regretted moving to Texas, saying, "You were right, I should have never come out here." That night, Jason kicked her out. A friend offered Jessie shelter and Gary bought her a planet ticket back to Alabama. But when Jessie didn't show up at the airport, her father grew increasingly concerned. Jason promised Jessie would stay and rebuild their relationship, though. Jessie reassured Gary he still felt uneasy, a decision that continues to haunt him back in Texas. Jessie withdrew from her community, becoming quiet and timid. Regina and Tommy Jordan, friends who had opened their home to Jessie and Jason, described her as shy and reserved. The Jordans last saw Jessie alive on May 1, 2016, before leaving the couple to house it. While they went out of town, everything seemed normal upon their return. But days later, they were stunned to learn Jason had been arrested for Jessie's murder. As the trial approached, Jason Lowe's defense attorney, Andy Farkas, was determined to secure an acquit in August 2017. Farkas brought journalists to the Collin County Jail to meet his client, though Jason refused to speak on camera, saying he was saving his story for the witness stand, believing Jason's testimony could sway the jury. Farkas took an unusual step, conducting a mock trial using pretend jurors in a simulated courtroom. The defense tested strategies, while Farkas's co-counsel, Maria, acted as the prosecutor. Meanwhile, Tommy visited Jason in jail to hear his side of the story. Recording the conversation, Jason admitted to being present when Jessie died, calling it an accident, and claiming he was guilty of criminal negligence. His shocking statement gave weight to the prosecution's case. Back at the mock trial, prosecutor Maria, too, seized on Jason's words as evidence of guilt. Jason Lowe's defense claimed Jessie Bardwell's death was an accident. His attorney, Andy Farkas, relied on a mock trial to test Jason's story, which swayed pretend jurors to a surprising not guilty verdict, giving Jason hope of freedom. Meanwhile, Gary Bardwell, determined to seek justice, boarded a plane for the first time in 30 years. Heartbroken but resolute as the prosecution's first witness, Gary struggled through his grief. Recalling Jessie's vibrant spirit, prosecutors exposed Jason's dark past, including drug abuse, pathological lying, and alleged abuse. Though accounts from his ex-girlfriends were inadmissible, their accusations of manipulation and violent outbursts painted a disturbing picture. Prosecutors focused on Jason's actions after Jessie's death, sending texts from her phone to pretend she was alive while her body decomposed in his car for 8 days. Jessie's remains lay hidden before Jason dumped them, a calculated attempt to cover up his crime. The way Jessie Bardwell's body was discarded spoke volumes. Prosecutors argued it was no accident. No one would treat someone they loved so callously. Jessie's remains, wrapped in a blue fitted sheet and covered with a red blanket and towels, were traced back to the home where Jason Lowe and Jessie had been. House is sitting. Regina Jordan, the homeowner, still kept the matching top sheet from the set, though she admitted it gave her chills just thinking about. As the trial progressed, the moment Gary had dreaded finally arrived. Jason Lowe took the stand, attempting to convince the jury of his innocence. The defense painted Jason as a troubled man hooked in drugs since age 13, but also as a well-educated individual from a privileged background. Jason claimed he and Jessie had plans to marry and buy a house before tragedy struck. Jason's version of events centered on the evening of May 1, 2016. He alleged that he and Jessie had taken GHB, a sedative, and were getting intimate in the shower when they both slipped. According to Jason, Jessie hit her head on the porcelain tub and later complained of feeling dizzy and overheated. Instead of seeking medical help, they went to sleep. The next morning, Jason claimed he woke to find Jessie lifeless on his chest. The defense suggested a possible brain injury, but Gary Bardwell didn't believe a word of it. "It was like somebody ripped my heart out," he said, reflecting on Jason's testimony. Jason's story grew more bizarre as he introduced Robert Gwynn, a drug dealer nicknamed Cowboy. Jason claimed Cowboy helped him wrap Jessie's body in a sheet and load it into the back of his Audi. Prosecutors dismissed this account, arguing it was implausible and irrelevant. They didn't even bother calling Cowboy to the stand, confident Jason's actions alone painted a damning picture. After placing Jessie's body in his car, Jason admitted he left her there for days while sending text messages from her phone to make it seem she was still alive. Even more disturbing, Jason spent those days texting other women, sending explicit messages and photos while Jessie's body decomposed in his garage. Prosecutors highlighted this behavior as evidence of Jason's cold and calculated nature, reinforcing their case against him. The courtroom was tense as Prosecutor Westwind delivered his closing arguments, aiming directly at Jason Lowe's character. "The love of your life is rotting in your trunk," he said, his words cutting through the air. Jason's defense continued to insist Jessie's death was an accident, but the prosecution argued otherwise. They pointed to Jason's actions, hiding Jessie's body, lying to the police, and pretending she was still alive. See evidence of his guilt. Jason's defense team made one final attempt to sway the jury, highlighting that Jason had told authorities where to find Jessie's body. They claimed he did it out of respect for Jessie's family, but the prosecution countered that Jason only cooperated because he struck a deal in exchange for revealing Jessie's location. Jason avoided a potential 99-year sentence, instead receiving a maximum of 50 years. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before reaching a verdict. As the courtroom fell silent, Judge Scott Becker read the decision: guilty of murder for Gary Bardwell. It was a bittersweet moment. "It was so sweet to know that monster is going to be put away for a long time," he said. Before sentencing, Gary faced Jason one last time. "I looked him straight in the eyes and it frightened me. There was nothing in his eyes." Jason Lowe was sentenced to 50 years in prison, the maximum allowed under his plea deal. After the trial, Gary Bardwell and his family returned to Mississippi, where Jessie had once filled their summers with joy. Memories of their days on the water, drifting under the warm sun, now carried a bittersweet weight. It took time, but Gary finally found the strength to return to some of the places they used to visit, a way to feel closer to the daughter he had lost. Jason Lowe had stolen more than a life. He had taken the radiant soul who lit up every room she entered. Jessie's laughter, her boundless energy, and her unforgettable smile left a void that can never be filled. The tragic story of Jessie Bardwell serves as a somber reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind closed doors. Her life was cut short by someone she trusted, leaving a void in the hearts of those who loved her. As we reflect on her story, let us remember Jessie for the light she brought into the world and the importance of seeking justice for victims of such heinous acts. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Chilling Fireside Stories. If Jessie's story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support helps me continue to honor the memories of victims and shed light on their stories. Until next time, stay safe and look after your loved ones.